You have heard the call of the unknown. You are on the threshold of new experience. Pay attention now to the voice of your heart and scrutinize calmly and carefully the offers of assistance and guidance you may receive. Welcome to the moon, Luna and the Druid. Today we have a second episode on the moon,
Mm. Yes,
card
we
number
decided
18.
the Moon card deserves a separate episode where we go deeper on the Moon card from the Thoth deck. You probably know if you've been watching us regularly that Jan is a specialist in Thoth deck. And I'm actually delighted that we're doing this because the Moon card in Thoth deck goes so deep. The symbolism of the card itself and the meaning of it goes way deeper than the moon in the wider Dex Tarot.
That's true. Yeah, it goes deeper. It's tougher. It's tougher to understand, and even the imagery is more
Darker.
mystical. Yeah, scary. And even if you look at Thoth clones, like here the Tides Tarot, the Maria Tarot, uh, there is there's not always much to see. There's so much to imagine. There's so much to think about. So much that can trickle your intuition, where you can
Mm.
see things you never saw before, and where you're think of, okay, what's happening here. And as you saw in our start, we have also made a kind of a different image for the show, a different slide. And we have the slide, and we talk about the lessons that this specific card gives to the fool.
Mm, I would actually like to discuss, before we go there, discuss the symbolism of the card itself, if you don't mind, because there are symbols which you can't see on any other moon card. How about that before we dive?
That's a good idea.
Because I think the symbols are important to understand the lessons.
Yeah.
We obviously have the moon on the
Yeah.
card.
Yeah.
We have the scarborough beetle. We have two Egyptian gods here. We have those waves. We have the sea. So let's talk about what those symbols represent.
Yeah.
Mm, So obviously the moon, it's a subconscious mind, the realm of dreams as well as intuition.
Yeah, yeah. So the cards, on the cards we see the Anubis shaped figures, the dog god, of course. Uh, there's a budding morrow in the moonlight, writes Aleister Crowley in his book of Thoth. For water is tinged with graphs of abomination. The sacred beetle, the Egyptian Kepra, bearing his mandibles in the solar disk. So this is a moon card where also the solar disk is here. So we see the line in the middle is actually the horizon, where
Mm,
the promise of the new day, the promise of the new dawn, the golden dawn, of course, as you can see in the books above my head. I'm a very avid reader of the golden dawn mythology. I'm used the golden dawn as my tarot guide, and there we have the dawn, the sunrise behind the horizon. Though, so how dark the night, or the dark night of the soul, and how mysterious the moon is. We always have the the new beginning there.
mm. Yeah, and the scarab beetle represents transformation, rebirth, which represents that moon and the sun cycle. That because it's a cycle, the moon rises up and the sun follows, or shall I say the other way, the sun rises up and then the moon follows it. And it's all
Yeah.
being represented by that card, which I find fascinating.
Yeah. So in the back we have the barren mountains. We have in front of the mountains the towers, and
Mm,
then the Anubis shaped figures. But the if you look closely at the feet of the Anubis, where we normally have the dog and the wolf, or sometimes two dogs, we now have the jackal.
Mm.
A totally different approach. The jackal themselves, they devour the carcasses of those who have not seen him or who have not known his name. This is the threshold of life. This is the threshold of death. All is doubtful. All is mysterious. All is intoxicating. We see from the moon the blood drops going down, uh, blood drops which flow from a gap between the two barren mountains. 9 drops of impure blood, drops
Mm.
shaped like yachts, falling upon the floor from the moon.
And obviously, the blood represents female part, the womb kind of aspect of the feminine energy, because the moon is a womb itself. So
Yeah,
it's just the more we look at this card, the more correlation and fascinating discoveries come to the surface.
yeah. Yeah, and that's so true. Of course, you see the glyph of Pisces on this side. So the moon is the last card in the represents the last zodiac sign, Pisces, before we go back into Aries again with the Emperor. And on the other side, we have the Hebrew letter Kof, and that's an interesting one because it means the back of the head. And the back of the head is, of course, the unseen side of the head, like we have uh, an unseen side of the moon, as we know so well, as the dark side of the moon. That's always facing outwards.
Yeah, and
So
that would represent subconscious, the unseen. Mm, yeah.
yeah,
What I find fascinating, you mentioned about the guardian figures, the Anubis figures. Actually, those are two different gods, and one represents the Anubis is the Egyptian god of afterlife, the protector of death. But the other, some say it's a different god, Set, which represents the chaos, which
yeah.
for me is a representation of feminine energy because chaos is feminine energy. So again, the more we look, the more lovely details we will find and more meanings to that beautiful card of unseen, unknown. Yeah,
Of mystery.
mystery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the funny thing because even during a reading, the during a reading sometimes new things come up. For instance, in a business reading, you see in the bottom part you see all these waves and these ups and downs. This is a graph of the growth and the demise of your business or the season that you go through in the, it's like an Excel graph that goes up and down and up and down, uh, like the turnover or the yield or the profit of a business. There's so much to see, so much to discover, so much to, yeah, to
Just
think
like
about.
in life, there are ups and downs, there are cycles. Women have their cycles. We
Of
have
course, I
cycles
have.
in life,
Yeah,
seasons of life. And what I'm really drawn to on that card is the color blue, which represents the sea and the connection with the moon, because the moon kind of rules the water in terms of the tides. And again, those symbols represent the high tide, low tide. And we, as our human body, are built in 70% of water, which shows how the moon is actually ruling ourselves. And the moon is the emotions. Water is the emotion element of representing emotions. So it's amazing how all those things are intertwined. And I think this card represents the all the aspects of the moon so on point and so on spot.
yes, it does. It does, and I'm always happy when I see this one. And that's not for everybody because it has the dark the yeah, like the dark side of the moon, the dark side of the soul. It always also represents the parts that are unseen, the hidden parts, the sometimes the cruelty of things that are not known, the cruelty of the mystery of the moon, the silence, the lack of oxygen. Yeah, there's so much to say about the moon, and it's the only place outside of Earth where humans have stood. They have sent stuff to Mars, but that was just robots. And but on the moon, we were there, and we know we can survive there. And so it's a barren, dangerous surrounding, but still we go there and we interact with it,
But what
and we
comes
see it
after
all the
the
time.
moon? The sun. So it's always a good sign of what's good to come. If we, of course, learn the lessons the moon brings, because if
Yeah,
we're not, we will suffocate. Just like you said, there is no air on the moon. So if we learn the lessons, then the sun will come up and rise and shine again.
that's it. That's it. That's it. And what are those lessons? And they're so different because none of the lessons we discussed or prepared for today have have an overlap with what we did last week. So it's just a bonus, really a bonus that the Thoth Moon hands us uh, in shape of lessons and, you know, in shape of ideas that the creators of the deck have tried to give us. And
Mhm.
I have 8 points. They're
It's
here.
like conscious level during our first moon card, and right now we're going deep into the subconscious.
That's the thing. That thing. And we start with number one, the path of initiation.
Mhm.
Then the role of guardians. You see the guardians on the card, of course. Then confronting the abyss where we go from the spiritual world into the material world. Then the duality of nature. Then the alchemical process that the moon card can teach us about. Then emotional debts, the power of ritual, and develop your mystical vision. I like
Mm.
that. Mystical visions. So, first, path of initiation. The moon card is associated with the Hebrew letter Kof, like I said, which means the back of the head and is linked to the subconscious mind. This emphasizes the idea of initiation and the journey into the unknown aspects of the psyche. So we go initiating our unknown aspects. The fool learns that true wisdom often comes from exploring the depths of his own mind and confronting the hidden parts of his consciousness. And there we have, like we said, we have the dark side of the moon. We have the hidden parts. We have the. I'm on the path of Druidry,
Mhm.
and within Druid you have three grades, and for every grade we do a conscious initiation. We
Okay,
get
so I.
initiated as bards. We get initiated as ovids, and finally we get initiated as druids. So it's an official step you take into a new kind of spiritual development, a new level. It's every level of spiritual growth as druids. We go through them consciously and consciously into initiate ourselves or in a group ourselves to go into the next level of that.
Mm,
So very interesting, very
very.
interesting. Then in the cards, of course, we have the second part, the role of the guardians. Boom, there
Mm.
they are, the Anubis and Seth, the gods of the dead and guides of the souls, guardianship and protection on the spiritual path.
Yeah, I think it's important to have somebody to guide you, to have a higher energy to call upon, to protect you, to guard you. And here the fool learns the importance of not just the physical realm, but the higher realm, the energy realm. This could be ancestors, this could be gods. The label is not relevant here, However, there is that higher energy we can turn to. And I think the aspect of protection is here important, because if we want to protect ourselves, then our energy field will be open, and then we will bring everything what's there out in the world. So that's an important lesson to learn, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, and of course the archetype of the guardian, the archetype of the protector, um, would also be also be used in normal life in the manifested world. We have our teachers, we have our mentors, we have our
Mm.
spiritual teachers, the ones who guide us on our path, who have been there before, and that's especially also in Druidism. We all get our mentors, and we all get our elders that tell the story of their journey. And when you're a bit elderly like me, you start slowly start telling other people, they're helping other people on their journey. So it's a continuous flow of guardianships. And
Mm.
yeah, I really like that. I really like that. um, the next point, I'll take the slide again, because we see a horizontal line on the card, and point three would be confronting the abyss, and that's very interesting, because the abyss in the tarot and the abyss in the Kabbalah is always the part when we go from the spiritual into the mundane, and between them is a gap. It's actually what the fool does on the fool's card in the Rider-Waite-Smith. He stands in front of a deep gap, and the gap represents the abyss that they go through from birth into the manifested world. So
Mhm.
confronting the abyss is a very important and crucial step in the fool's journey.
Yeah, it is essential to understand that growth happens in the darkness, in the challenges. Through the challenges, we grow. And I always say that we shouldn't be scared of darkness, because darkness is not evil. Very often for people it's the same thing. Darkness equals evil. No, it's not. In the darkness is where the growth happens, the transformation happens. Just like when we are planting seeds, the biggest growth, the initiation of the growth itself, happens under the ground when there is no light. And when there is no light, that's how we discover our own light.
Bingo, there you have it. And of course, in the darkness, um, especially in the darkness of the night, we can still see the sun reflected from the moon, and sometimes we see the sun reflected in the water, and so you see reflections on reflections, and that can only happen at night.
Yeah, but
There
that
is
might.
there is yeah there is the light can reflect, the light can shine brightest in the darkness. So confrontation with the darkness, the confrontation with the darkness in yourself, the shadow, is a part of your spiritual growth and transformation. So it teaches you resilience and necessity of facing the most challenging parts. So diving deep, going deep into the abyss, and believing that you can come out there.
Mm,
Love it. Fourth point would be the duality of nature. That's of course what you duality, uh, the cycles, the ups, the downs. Uh, that's what nature brings in us. The solar cycle, the lunar cycles, the and then even the daily cycles, and the ones that we created, the hourly cycles and the cycles of minutes and seconds. And they're all, and they also have a beginning, a part where they grow till they reach their peak and go back again. And yeah, and that's the duality of nature. That's
absolutely.
what.
There are always polarities, feminine, masculine energy, ups and downs, fire and water. Everything in nature has opposing energy, which somehow it comes together um, in this magical alchemical form. And even though things may seem like they're opposites, they actually work together uh, for either growth, or it depends on obviously those forces, but absolutely the duality of the nature, I think it's
Yeah.
one of the most important laws to remember and to be aware of.
Yeah, and these forces and the duality is the fun thing is that sometimes they're paradoxes. They cancel each other out, but still exist both on on the same plane. You know, we have so many paradoxes in our life that are manifest, and you know the word would say a paradox that it can't exist together, but it does, and that's the duality: life
Mm,
and death, conscious and unconscious, darkness and night, of dark and light. They are they are there.
yeah. Creation and destruction. Mm,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
It's an interesting one, actually. Yeah, but the moon card from a top deck really strongly symbolizes that.
yeah. And of course, it wouldn't be Crowley if it wouldn't be like part number five or point number five, the alchemical process. So the 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 albedo, the whitening stage of alchemy, associated with purification and spiritual enlightenment. So it's not the alchemy of just turning lead into gold, but the spiritual alchemy. And that's especially what this card talks about. The it's crucial for refining mind and spirit to prepare yourself for higher levels of spiritual attainment. So yeah, the transformation that that the moon gives the fool is is crucial in his life and in his development.
Yeah, and that's why I love holistic life coaching for, because it's not just the body, it is also about the mind, body, and spirit. Those are those three aspects with the mind and the body and the spirit. It's this alchemical kind of triangle which we are made of. It's not just the physical matter, it's also the energy.
Yeah,
And the holistic coaching takes the spirit, that third element, and into consideration as well, which is crucial. It's what we are, it's who we are, and we can't forget about that aspect of ourselves.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and further than we when we go there, when we learn, when we grow, we go to the deep emotional states of the ebbs and flows of the feelings, and these are so obviously and big and profound elements of this card, the ebbs and flows and the depths of the emotions and the what we got from the temperance card was uh, to level all these things. Here in the moon card they go up to high peaks and down to to the deepest and deepest valleys, and it's important in life to learn to work with this. All of most of us go to really dark periods in our lives, and we have to deal with them, and we have to overcome them. We all suffer from adversity, from things not working, things not turning out fine, loved ones that leave us to whatever caused death or just fading away, and all these emotions are part of it. Um, yeah, so explore the illusion of of course, there are illusions, the ups and downs, and they play in the mind. You know, the world revolves, the world goes as it goes, and every day it becomes night, and every morning it becomes morning again, and all the things that happen in our lives and that we experience in our lives, most of them we experience them and live them through our emotions and our feelings and in the mind. So
Mhm.
yeah,
And it takes me to astrology, especially with those emotions and that aspect. Most people, if they know their sun sign, that's the only knowledge they have about themselves. And the sun sign is the way we present ourselves. However, to me, the most important aspect is the moon, where we have the moon, because the moon is the emotional house, the emotional side of us. And emotions can very often be a leading force within our life. How many times emotions can take the best out of us? And if we only just take a step back and simply breathe, things change immediately. And emotions can control or overpower our actions, our thoughts. So to me, the most important aspect is to know your moon, because if you know your moon, you know how to react and how to respond to what you're going through. Me having Pisces, a moon in Pisces, I am very emotional. I go deep with emotions. I process emotions deep. I feel everything more deeper. Probably that's why I love the moon card so much, because it's connected with the Piscean energy. So I resonate with it so much.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, next lesson would be the power of ritual, and that's where you um, learn your daily habits, your daily starts, midpoints, endpoints of the day, the even the times you take your meals, uh, the power the power of creating structure and ritual in your life, how
Mm,
important it is. And from ritual, when you perform rituals, you go into deep, you can go into deeper states of consciousness. So the ritual would be the vehicle to get you there. The ritual as a preparation for meditation or journeying is there's always a ritual to prepare yourself with intentions, with uh, yeah, with certain movements, certain acts, certain things to bring you in different states of awareness. Yeah,
absolutely. And then many times people are scared of building habits. They think that habits means boring routine. That's not true, because the habits will actually help us to become better at something we want to do. Not to mention the rituals in within the spiritual practice, the rituals of meditation, or the rituals like I perform moon magic, because I'm a moon witch. So for me, that's important aspect of my spiritual practice, my spiritual growth, my way of connecting with the energy I feel. Absolutely, rituals are such a beautiful moment where we put everything aside, and there we are, just us, our ritual, our spirit, and that can help to bring us into a present moment,
it
which
does. It
with
does.
the delusional side of the moon sometimes can be challenging. But at the end of the day, the fool is learning how to overcome those challenges the moon presents.
And last but not least, we develop our mystical vision. So the ability to perceive the underlying spiritual truths behind the material world, cultivated through meditation, through ritual, to meditation, uh, introspection, spiritual practice. So there's a big chunk of the hermit comes to life again, and it's guiding the fool towards enlightenment and deeper understanding of the material world.
Yes, well, not everything can be seen with our physical eyes. We were given set of physical eyes as well of the eyes which sees in our mind, which is the receptive center of the energy, seeing, visualizing, the mind's eye.
The mind's eye. Yeah.
I'm talking here about the third eye. And it's important to know that actually, as human beings, as a physical vessel, as humans, we only see and hear 1% of the frequencies that actually exist. So 99% of things which exist are not visible to our eye, or we can't hear those frequencies. So we can't hear that. So the one of the aspects here is to learn that if we can touch something, it doesn't mean that it's real. And if we cannot touch something, it actually is real. So this is that beautiful reflection of the moon itself, because the moon doesn't have its own light. It is reflecting the sunlight. So again, this illusion, and that's what we think, that we see moon's light, but it's actually the sun's light.
Yeah, that's it. The sunlight in the darkness, the reflection of the sunlight,
Mm.
and yeah, it's all part of this big mystery of the influence. That's what actually what's the very biggest lesson of the whole moon, of the two cards, that the influence the moon has in our daily lives all the time. We see it as a structure there in the sky, but the tides on Earth are influenced. The female cycles are influenced. So we could even say that our mental states are
Yeah,
under influence of the moon.
absolutely. There is a word lunatic, which means
Yeah,
a person who goes a little bit cuckoo. And when there is more light being reflected by the moon.
that's it.
Absolutely. So it's not only the material, physical world. It's there is so much more
That's it.
than than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So,
that's the moon for us, an
mhm,
influence on our daily lives forever and ever and ever. And I it's really lovely to be able to do two episodes on the moon on our channel. And yeah, we got there. And yeah, just don't forget the significance of this beautiful heavenly body.
mhm. Yeah. Thank you very much. Remember to like this video and share it with your friends if you think it can help them to understand the nature of the moon and the moon card. And if
Yeah,
you haven't subscribed to our channel, it helps us grow.
it does. It does.
Thank
So
you.
seeing you soon, back on the dark side of the moon. Bye all.
Bye.